Now, there's a lot of evidence to prove that Joseph was actually a good father, but he was unnoticed, unpraised, and to some degree unsung. But then he did only have 3 short years to prove his worth as a father. The evidence says that Joseph is only mentioned 14 times in the Bible, whereas David is mentioned 1,140 times and Abraham 290 times. So it's fair to say, yes, he might well have been a little bit unnoticed and unsung and unpraised in the scripture. But there are 2 points I want to make this morning about Joseph. One point is, he never saw it coming. He never saw the pregnancy coming. He must have been knocked off his feet by it. He must have been terribly disappointed, terribly confused, and somewhat anxious, because in those days, for Mary, it might have meant social exclusion, and possibly it could have meant execution. Such was the culture in that day. He never saw all these emotions that must have flooded into his life. He never saw it coming. But he never saw the blessing coming neither. With all this turmoil going on in his life, he went to sleep. How he did that, I don't know, but he went to sleep. And during his sleep, the blessing of the Lord came through an angel and assured him that it was going to be okay, that the child that was going to be born was going to change his life and change the world. What a blessing. What a blessing to be told that. And of course we know he did as he was told. He got up and married Mary, and he had previously thought of divorce. What I want to say this morning, the first point that I want to make is really important. You know, sometimes we don't recognize the blessings. It's so easy to see the straightforward blessings. Some of them that Ben mentioned with the children this morning, easy to notice them. Not so easy to notice the blessings that come in the hard times. And yet, they're there. And we must embrace them as Joseph did and be thankful. Nina gave us a lovely example of how in a hard time in her life, the blessing of others came into her life. And I guess we can all quote illustrations of that. I've got a very simple one. Not too long ago, I was doing as many people do these days, and I ran into a pothole. I was on the way back from Danbury. In my uniform, I'd been at speaking engagement, and I ran into this pothole. It messed up the wheel, it punctured the tire, and I limped along for a little while. I got out of the car, and I stood there, anxious, yes, frustrated that I'd spend the rest of the day waiting for the AA, and just a little bit angry at the pothole. And I hadn't been there long before a van came in behind me, and out jumped a fine-looking young man and said to me, can I help you? Oh, yes, please. And within minutes, he'd taken the wheel off, he'd changed and I was on my way. He wouldn't take any remuneration at all. Off he went with all his good looks and everything. And I said to Claire that evening, told her the story, and she said, was he an angel? And I said, well, he was in a white van, if that helps. You see what I'm saying, don't you? You get the point. That we must be grateful for the blessings that come when life is difficult, when the frustrations and the sadness and the hard times come. There are blessings there that we don't always recognize and we don't always embrace. We thank God because he blesses us then, even then, with his presence and enables us to go forward. The songsters have a lovely song all about that. It's called Blessings, but you'll hear and feel the message that runs through it.